Okay, so we're on the last page of Haven, and Laura is speaking. Here you speak of adventure and philosophy, politics and history, of dreams. I know the man behind the scars. She kissed his forehead. I want that man. Okay, I don't see any problems here. It looks good. His arc slid along her skin, hot like full summer sun, tingling up her arms, curling around her throat, and flowing down her back before wrapping delicate tendrils around her legs. Now that's a very long sentence, but I don't see any problems with it. It just flows really well. Let me see. Yeah, I like it. It's long, but it flows. It flows really well. With her aura open, emotions bared, the touch was unbearably intense. You know I'm going to highlight this, not just because it's an adverb, but yes, I do highlight adverb. So the reason is adverbs modify verbs, and often, not always, often you can use a stronger verb and not need to use the adverb at all. Here, that's not the case. And still, I don't like it. Let me think. Why? Okay, so unbearable. Now, this is a very intimate scene, and whatever is happening, I would hope that she doesn't find it unbearable. So, this is very subconscious, so maybe we could have a better word there. So, just about word choice. So, it's not wrong, but maybe there's a better word to replace this one. You have terrible taste in men. So that's Marahu speaking. His arcs lifted Laura into the cool water, sending a frisson of competing sensations through her. Okay, so I can imagine him saying this very dryly. I still want a bit of a tone here. How is he saying that? I know she put the emphasis on terrible, and that's good. That's good to do that once in a while. I still maybe a tiny bit here for tone, because I want to kind of hear it. And I like that frisson. That works really well. A frisson, like a little tremor. A very pleasurable shudder. I like it. But I kind of feel like something's missing here. Frisson, competing sensations. How about rippling through her? Something like that. You have terrible taste in men. His arcs lifted along. Yes, I kind of feel like there needs to be something very small here, just one word. She steadied herself. There's a typo there. She steadied herself on him, hands catching his arms. Face to face, they blinked breathlessly at one another. So, an adverb here. It's modifying blink. But I like it. But maybe it can work better another place. Back here instead. And we don't need to have it as an adverb. It can be a verb. An adjective there. Let's see. She steadied herself on him, hands catching his arms. So this is really nice because she's showing and not telling us that she's off balance. So a bit of subtext there. That's nicely done. Face to face, they blinked at each other, at one another, breathless. Yeah, so you just get to read a little bit of pause to catch their breath. So I think it works. He caressed her face. Is that a semicolon? It needs to be. He caressed her face, and she let her aura flow freely around him, and slowly his aura shield cracked open. Now, this is a full sentence, complete sentence, and this is another complete sentence. So if we were to keep it like this can't be a comma. This needs to be a semicolon. However, I'm just wondering if we even need this. Because that's almost like, I know what she's saying. She's allowing herself, right? She's allowing the aura to flow. But it's implied, right? It's implied. So I don't think we actually need that. And it might flow better. And we can just keep the comma. He caressed his face, her aura flowing freely around him. And slowly his aura shield cracked open. Yeah, I think I like this better. He caressed her face, her aura flowing freely around him. Slowly. Yep, I think that one is okay. Yes, I do question every adverb I meet. It cracked open slowly. Okay, fair enough. Marahu, he whispered. He'd never been anything but fully closed off from everyone. Now that's almost like a little slip of POV, the point of view. How does she know this, right? This is something very, very personal to him. Has he told her? Why would he tell her? She knows. I would probably say something like, as far as she knew, he'd never been anything but fully closed off from everyone. Never been anything but. And we could even, condense that to he'd always been fully closed off. It's a tiny bit clunky, but I kind of like it. He's never been anything but. Yeah, I'm gonna just say it's a very slight slip of POV. So we could just take care of that by saying, as far as she knew, he'd never been, right? She whispered. He inhaled roughly. Lots of adverbs on this page. He inhaled roughly. I'd probably say something like, he caught his breath. It kind of says the same thing, but it's really up to Rebecca. Be my haven, be my peace. Now, this is really lovely, but I'm now wondering what oral shields exactly are, because now oral implies sound, right? So if his oral shields are cracking open, are they used to shield something? So I thought the impression I got was that it's something to do with him kind of protecting his thoughts. So I might work better to have this line. This is a very important line. Not be in quotation marks, but in italics. So it's like how we use italics for internal monologue, but now it's because his oral shields have cracked open and he's thinking, but she can hear him. She can hear his thoughts. So that would be even more intimate, right? And she can do that too. So these two bits, I'm wondering, maybe if I'm reading this correctly, so I'm just querying, is that what it means? By opening the oral shields, does that mean can hear his thoughts? And if so, then the italics would work and not the quotation marks. He pulled her against him, his grip bunching the gauze of her shift, his arc sliding hot over her wet skin. His open aura mingled with hers in an intimate exchange of self. Auras first, bodies after. Now, how lovely is that? That's beautiful, isn't it? Now, this is romance. So, what a lovely last line. Yep, so only the adverbs really trip me up here. And I think that's a beautiful ending to Haven, which is really a beautiful story. Yeah, I think we need to highlight this, right? That's the whole point of using this as the title. Yes, okay. I think that would work. Okay, so we're done with the line edit for Haven, Rebecca's beautiful story. Her submission, second one. First one was Return of the Stolen, and I've also done the on-screen line editing for that. So you might want to check it out if you haven't already. And both Haven and Return of the Stolen were submissions for our anthology. So this was our first, the Spring Anthology 2022, and it did pretty well. If you would like to submit a story to us for the summer anthology that's coming up next year, be sure to go to sandkittenspress.com and download this infographic and follow the instructions. If you have any questions at all, just go to the contact page and let us know. Okay? So that's it from me. Bye for now.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Fuentes, RL Fuentes. I'm the author whose stories Cass has been live line editing on her videos. So I wrote Return of the Stolen, and then I wrote Haven. I wanted to talk a little bit about the process of both line editing and the process of writing flash fiction. Flash fiction is very, very short fiction stories. In the case of our anthology, A Season for Romance Spring Blossoms, that came out this past June, this was flash romance, of course. And the stories had to be 1,500 words or less. When Cass contacted me and asked me to contribute to the anthology, I told her no. I'm a novelist. I don't write anything short. But she insisted, and she's really hard to turn down. So I tried it, and my first story got rejected because it wasn't romantic enough. So I tried again. But a big part of this process was taking a look at flash fiction examples that she sent me, taking a look at a flash fiction organizer and guide that Davia, who is our developmental editor, put together and is available on the Sand Kittens Press website, and deciding, well, I'll give this a try. I'm between big projects. I just finished a trilogy that needs edited. I haven't really started anything in my new world. Why not give it a try? And the best part about flash fiction is that it's a wonderful way to either help you build a new world, which I was in the process of doing, or to flesh out a world that you've already started building. And you write these stories, and they can become what we call reader magnets that readers can read in an anthology or as part of a newsletter and get as a freebie. And then they're like, hey, I like this author. I like what they're writing. This world they've written in sounds fascinating, and I'm going to go look up more of their work. And I have absolutely discovered new authors whose work I want to follow and read when I have read their work in an anthology. So this is a really good way as an author to build your world, to hone your writing chops, and to get readers interested in your work, in your name, and your worlds. But the editing process was probably the most valuable part of it for me. I had never worked with a formal editor. I'd been part of critique groups. I've been part of writing critique groups before. Some of them very well done quite a while ago, but sending my work first for developmental editing really pulled out the themes of the work. And Deva is very, very good at looking through the work and finding the subtext and the real point of the story that needs to be told, and giving advice on how to pull that up to the surface of the story so that the reader doesn't feel like they have to work for it. Your reader should never feel like they're having to work for the story. It should just come to them. I learned a lot in that process of developmental editing about adding body language and adding depth, adding thoughts, and showing the feelings of other characters through their description of their tone of voice and how they're interacting with the characters around them. And then Cass did all the line editing, and she did at least 3 sweeps of line editing with all of my stories. At least 4 of those first 5 stories, I completely rewrote. And both Haven and Return of the Stolen were partially rewritten from their original drafts. So what you're seeing in those line edits is not a rough draft at all. I rough drafted, I went through and did some rewriting and editing on my own. I sent them to Deva for developmental editing. I completely rewrote parts of them after that and double checked it again, and then I sent them to Cass and she did the line editing part. So the developmental edit brought forth the structural issues. It said what we need to have here, all of those lines that Cass is like, oh my gosh, Alora, oh my gosh, Kay or Emil. A lot of those were things where Deva had gone in and said, you need a little more here. We need to bring this out. We have some subtext here we need to bring up and make easier for the reader to catch. So it's very much a group process to bring the basic idea and get it to the point where the reader's going, oh my gosh, this is so good. You need those extra eyes. It's been an extremely valuable process though. The process of writing flashes for world building and fleshing out side characters, the process of going through developmental edit, and then the process of line edits and having her videotape the line edits and getting to hear the actual thoughts behind what she says and the comments she makes was really eye-opening, even though I had worked with her on several projects before, because then I could hear, oh, that's why she said that. That's why she wants to take that word out. That's why she's suggesting an alternative wording here. And we do a lot of back and forth commentary. So it's still my words. It's still my ideas. She's not taking my voice away. She's just giving me the tools to help make my voice more refined and better and more accessible to my readers. If you want to read the first anthology, you can download it from sandkittenspress.com, and it's a free anthology, 22 free stories that are for the most part focused on fantasy or science fiction romance. And you can take a look at what a flash looks like, what various flashes look like. And if you're a writer, we'll be looking for contributors to a summer anthology that will come out in 2023 of flash fiction stories that can serve as magnets to your longer works. And you will get the chance to work with a developmental editor. You'll get the chance to work with the line editor and do all that back and forth that I did. So you could go again to Sand Kittens Press and look at the information there, and they'll be taking submissions for their flash, romance, fantasy, and science fiction stories starting next spring. If you are interested in that opportunity, I highly recommend it. This is a wonderful team to work with, and the connections I've made with other writers through this have been priceless.